Choosing the right location for your next photography session can make or break the photos that you get. This is for a wide variety of reasons, and in this video, we're going to go into all the reasons that it's going to make or break the photos, and my tips and tricks for how to choose the location that's best going to fit the style and vibe that you're going for. Hi, if you don't know me, I am Colleen Rowland, and I am the owner of Colleen's Rustic Artistry, which is a photography and digital art company. And today I am really excited to go into all of these different tips and tricks. Before we begin to get into the tips of how to choose the location, we need to understand why location matters. So your location affects multiple different aspects of your photos, including but not limited to the vibe and the mood of your photos. So if I'm wanting a light and airy session, for example, I'm not going to take photos in the downtown busy streets because that's going to give more of that business, rushed, modern-esque kind of style. And if that's what you're going for, that might be where you want to be. But if you're looking for that light and airy session, maybe you want to be in a field or on the beach. And that's going to help reflect the mood of your photo and kind of help bring those emotions out in people. And we all know that photography is art, and art is supposed to enlist emotions in people. So when you're choosing your location, it's a great idea to have that in mind. That way, as you're thinking about your location, you can be asking yourself, what type of emotion is this going to elicit in people? Secondly, when you're choosing a location, you need to be mindful because your location can limit what your session can do. For example, if you're having a venue or a studio space, your session might cost more because now you're having to cover that cost in addition to the photography. And on top of that, you might only have certain time slots that you're able to use. Your photographer is going to have time slots that they have available. The venue is going to have time slots they have available. But the only time slots that you are going to be able to choose from are the ones that overlap. Additionally, if you want a 4-hour session per se with your venue, but the venue only has 2-hour time slots, you're going to have to compromise in that sense of what do you want in your photography session versus what is offered and where you're having your location at. So if that 2-hour time slot doesn't work, you're gonna have to find a new venue or a new location in total. Another thing to think about with locations is that depending on where your location is, depends on certain types of shoots you can do. Say you're wanting to have a boudoir photography session done. You are not gonna be able to take that in the downtown streets of your city. You can't be showing all that. So if you're wanting to have a boudoir session done, you are going to have somewhere private, somewhere that you can take those riskier photos and show off more of your gorgeous body. But not on the streets because we don't want everybody seeing it. Your photographer probably won't let you do that. I personally would decline. But anyway, once you've figured out what type of photography session you're wanting, what kind of mood you're looking for, so what type of photos are you going for and what's the mood that you're going for, and what emotions are you looking to enlist in this. So maybe if it's family photos, you're looking to enlist emotions of nostalgia and peace and serenity. That's amazing, and having your family in those photos will certainly do that. But now what locations can we choose that are going to help bring that location emotion to life as well? So let's get into the tips and tricks of how to choose a location and what locations are going to be the most beneficial for what you are trying to choose. The very first thing we need to think about when we are trying to figure out how do I pick a location is, do I have any accessibility needs that I need to meet? Whether that be for you or somebody that you're going to be taking photos with. So if you have somebody who's wheelchair bound, think about where can this person reasonably travel with their wheelchair, with or without assistance. And if you're thinking about with assistance, make sure that you are thinking about that person's wants, needs, and desires. Will they be willing to have assistance to get to that location? Because if they're not willing to have that assistance, we need to move the location to somewhere they can get to independently, because everybody is unique and different. Another thing to think about is if you are trying to do a maternity session, where is the nearest restroom going to be? We know that especially in the 3rd trimester, your bladder's being pushed on. You gonna need to pee, and that is a-okay. But you are not gonna wanna have to hold your pee for 30 minutes or 45 minutes if the closest restroom is back at the start of the trail and we're at a waterfall. Which, if you feel that way, there's always woods, but you wanna think about these things before you get into choosing that location and finalizing your session details and making sure that all of our needs are met. Then we can start looking into some of the other funner aspects of choosing your session. So I always recommend, what style of session do you want? Is being the first and foremost thing you figure out. Are you wanting a more rustic style session? So maybe we're in a field or a barn. Are we looking for more of a modern style session where maybe we're in a studio? Or maybe we want the traditional JCPenney photos. You can honestly take them anywhere, but studio would be traditional. Choosing that kind of session that you're interested in is what is going to help you finalize that location. Another thing you can think about is, what type of session am I having done? Especially with engagement sessions or couple sessions. What location is important to you two as a couple? So I have had a client and they really wanted to take photos at the park that they got engaged at, and it is great because those photos are going to resemble so much for them, because that is where they originally agreed to make that lifelong commitment to each other. So finding locations that have meaning to you, whether that be family land, places you got engaged, places major things have happened, is going to help you really and truly to have photos that you love. And then we can take into account, okay, what is the emotion we're trying to elicit, and what is the mood that we're trying to create with these photos, and does this location that I hold so near and dear to my heart align with this? And if we can figure that out and we love it, then it is 100% a-okay to go with land or a location that is private for you, or just a location that you really love. And that is always my recommendation, because I 100% believe that if you take photos at a place you cherish, you are gonna like your photos a lot more than if you took them at a different location, as long as that location that you really love aligns with the style of imagery you're trying to achieve. Another really important thing to think about, again, is the mood that you're trying to create with your session. So what do I mean by that? A lot of the times when you hear mood, you either think of the mood that you're feeling or the mood of a book, and we're kind of leaning more towards an in-between of those two, where the mood of your photos is kind of what is the stereotypical symbolism of that location. So a lot of people, when they think of the beach, they think of being relaxed and calm, or maybe if you're in the barn, you're nice and cozy. And that kind of thinking helps you get a better understanding of what moods you might be eliciting with your photos, because if I'm taking photos downtown, I'm not going to think I'm nice and cozy. I'm going to think I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to get something done. And if the type of photos I'm taking are, photos where I'm trying to work and promote a busy but healthy lifestyle, that might be great. But if I'm trying to promote a cozy, nice, calm, and content lifestyle, the middle of downtown is not going to give me that mood. So figuring out kind of the mood and style you're going for is going to majorly help you understand the type of session you're wanting. So once you find a location that you might be interested in, especially again if it is family land and land that's important to you, is deciding what type of mood does it elicit. Because once you figured that out, you can kind of flip it around and go, okay, does this present with my overall photography idea? And is this meeting my image and my style that I'm going for these photos? There are so many different locations we can consider when we are looking into having a photography session done. It's kind of a huge umbrella, and there are so many different categories that we can look into and break things down into. But for the purpose of keeping this simple, easy, and understandable, we are going to talk about a few of the big ones that I see and I would recommend looking into in your area. And the first would be outdoor spaces. If it is accommodable for your family or for the people you're taking photos with, outdoor photography is gorgeous. I'm biased because I prefer to shoot outdoor photography, but the lighting, especially in golden hour, you cannot beat those types of photos. You can get some of the best candid moments and have just a really great time with the people you love in an outdoor setting. So outdoor locations could be local fields, local hiking trails, depending on what you enjoy doing, beaches, your outside your house, honestly, public locations, so your local park, or if you have like a downtown square, those can be amazing outdoor locations. And depending on the style of photography you're going for, you can even do downtown street photography, which is a very different style, and I do not have any experience with it. But if it's the type of style you're going for, downtown on, busy city streets, it is possible to take photos there depending on the type of photography you're going for. Another really good idea to look into is your indoor places, so your studio sessions and your venues. And to find those, you really can just look up studios/venues in my area, and it will pop up and populate with a bunch of these to verify the price and the availability and whether or not they're even actually a venue or studio, because sometimes Google messes up a little bit. You're gonna want to call them and make sure and verify everything you need to, but that is a great way to find those locations. Another thing to think about, especially with indoor locations, is more of the niche locations. So maybe you and your partner are wanting to have engagement photos and you both love to roller skate. So we're gonna do our session at a roller skating rink. Or maybe you and your family are huge readers, so you're gonna take them at the local public library. Any of these ideas are absolutely phenomenal. The biggest thing with them is that is private property. Even the public library, that is the public library's private property. As the public, we have access to go in it. But you understand what I mean. There are rules and regulations for being in each of these places and in stores and in buildings. So the biggest thing is, if you're thinking about doing a photography session like that, is calling and asking permission to take photos in those places, to have a session in those places, because sometimes they will not allow you to. And that means that you can find another location entirely, or reach out to different locations that are similar. So maybe instead of your public library, you reach out to a local bookstore. And that way you're still getting the same vibe, but a little bit different. You just need to ensure that you have the right to be there to take photos in that section. And it may cost you to do so, but those can create amazing, gorgeous, niche photos that you and whoever you are with will cherish for the rest of your life, because it is such a unique style. Something else I would like to go back and mention in regards to outdoor photography is, if you're choosing to take photography in a field, you can almost move that around and make it pretty much anything you want. So if you're an artist and you love art, maybe we set up a little studio section with a sheet and some clothesline, and you're painting with that kind of as your backdrop. Or if you love animals, you have your animals there. Or completely flip it around entirely, and you are a photographer and you're wanting business photos taken. You can really make an outdoor session in a field a lot personable by adding props and things that you like to the session. Another type of photography for us to talk about and consider, though, for location is brand photography. So if you are a cosmetologist or a business owner or a photographer, an artist, or any of these amazing things, you may be looking to get photos for that business. And when you're looking to do that, yeah, you can do the fields or paid venues and all of these other things, but sometimes the best photos turn out in your location for the business. So I've seen some amazing photos from other photographers that have done cosmetology brand sessions where the clients are having their photos taken in the salons. Obviously, there's no other client for the hairstylist in the salon during the time of the photo session, but it really helps encompass everything together, and it helps brand that photo so much better because it's in the space. So that is definitely something to consider if you're looking for brand photos. The other thing, and I kind of mentioned this before, is family land or land that is very personal to you. So even if it's not your land, maybe you have a brother or sister or mother or grandfather who owns some land or this place that you really, really love and it's got a lot of meaning to you. Reaching out to them and saying, hey, can I take photos on your land is 100% acceptable. It's also 100% acceptable for them to tell you no, but worst thing that can happen is they can say no. As long as you don't show up, there's no legal action they can do, so it's okay. The last session location that I might suggest really depends on the photographer you have and your budget. But if you are looking to not do what is considered a on-location shoot and you want to do an in-studio shoot, there are numerous benefits to that. And again, it can be personalized through props, very similar to the field. The biggest advantage of doing a studio session is that you are going to have your photographer is going to have full control of the lighting. They're probably going to have additional lighting besides just the big overhead, and that is going to allow them to get some amazing shots and not worry about, is there a big shadow on your face or anything like that. So that way you know that no matter what the weather does, your session's not getting canceled and the lighting's going to be phenomenal. So that is some of the big categories that I would recommend looking into to choose your photography location. But there are some red flags to be on the lookout for. There are some things that we do not want to see at a location that 100% should have you thinking in the back of your little head like, maybe I should choose somewhere else, because there's some little things that aren't going to turn out well. The first red flag to be on the lookout for is popular, overcrowded places. For example, if I'm wanting to take photos at a waterfall, I'm not going to choose Niagara Falls to take photos at, more than likely, because it's really, really popular. There's so many people around. I'm not going to be able to get photos that are quality with just me in them. And yes, your photographer obviously has Photoshop and they can work magic. If you have a place that is popular and you know it's overcrowded, try and find times that it's going to have down times or slow times to go and have your session at that location. That way, you're gonna just help ensure that your photos turn out the way you're wanting them to, and ensuring that you don't have to pay extra for editing from your photographer. And I bring that up because I do know there are some photographers that charge more for excessive editing. So keep that in mind when you are looking into locations that might be really overpopular, really crowded, just to make sure that you are staying within budget on your session. The second red flag when it comes to choosing your session is places that you are unsure whether or not you have the permission to take photos at. This could be places like possibly public fields or botanical gardens, or really anywhere where their public statement is very questionable. When you are looking to take photos, if you are not 100% positive that it is public, your photographer can help you figure that out and figure out if they're allowed to take photos there, because there are regulations on where a photographer can take photos without having certain licensings and everything. So your photographer will know whether or not as a photographer they can take photos there, or if they have to have a special licensings or registration for a certain day to do so. But outside of the photographer knowing all of that and doing all of that work, It's always a great idea if you are thinking about doing a photography session and you are unsure of the permissions that you have to do so, to find the owner of that location and just call and clarify, call and ask and be like, hey, is it okay for me to do this? I saw on the website that you said that this, and this, but I wasn't sure if that meant photography was prohibited or allowed. So I just wanted to verify. Or something to that effect, where it's showing you have researched it, you've tried to figure it out, but you're still a little unsure and you're just trying to get clarification so that you are in the right and don't end up on the wrong side of a lawsuit. Red flag number 3 is the logistical issues. So this is kind of a umbrella term for a lot of different things that could be a red flag for a location. So let's quickly run through this list, that way you're not here all day listening to me explain things that you already know. Number 1, is there limited parking? Is there going to be enough legal parking spaces for you, whoever else you're taking photos with, and your photographer? And is it public parking or is it private parking? Because if it's private parking, is there meters that need to be paid, or is there registrations that need to be done? Meter parking and registrations are not immediately a red flag. The biggest problem here is there is limited parking, meaning you and your photographer may not be able to get to the location of your shoot due to parking restrictions. Number 2, is it hard to find? I absolutely love to shoot in this one really, really gorgeous field. It's public. The problem is it's under a umbrella of a lot of different land. It's a wildlife management area, so there's not a direct address to that field. I have found that the best way to direct people to that is by using its coordinates and giving the next biggest marker, which is diagonal to the road, so it's not too awful hard for them. If I was not able to use their coordinates and then that, big local marker that actually has an address, I would not use that field because it would be almost impossible for people to find. So be mindful that even if you are giving people coordinates, you might need to give them directions on how to look coordinates up and find them. Not everybody has used them and not everybody knows how to find coordinates. But making sure that your location is easy to find, or if it's not easy to find, that if you are the photographer, you're waiting for your client to get there before walking to the location if it's off the beaten path. Same for the client. If you are meeting your photographer somewhere and you really want to take photos there, but it's, a ways away after you park, you want to stay and make sure you walk with them to that location if you choose to go on with having the location there. That way you get all of your shooting time and everything works out accordingly. Enough space is also a large red flag for your session. So if you are wanting to take a very specific, is there enough location here for us to walk a short distance? Is there enough location here for us to get a couple different backgrounds maybe? Now, if you're in a studio, that's a little different. But knowing what type of session you're looking for and being able to visualize you and whoever else you're going to be with in that space is highly important. If I'm wanting to take a family portrait with all 50 of my family members, I'm not going to try and pack into a little one bedroom and get our photo taken in that. I'm going to probably have our photos taken out in a field or in a professional studio, a large professional studio that can accommodate that many people. So just keeping in mind the number of people you're having to the space that you're going to be in and what type of photography you're looking to have done. If you're looking to do gymnastics photos, you're not going to be able to do that in a small wooded area where you can't flip and tumble if that's the type of photography you're looking for. However, if you are a solo hiker and you're looking to get photos of you being a solo hiker, that same field, that same wooded area the gymnast couldn't use might be perfect for you and your photographer. It's all about communicating with your photographer and knowing what you need and want out of your session. That way you can communicate with your photographer and they can help give you guidelines and guidance. I'm going to give you guys a bonus tip in this video, which I've kind of already shared, but it is so important I feel the need to say it again. How can we elevate your session to be the best session possible? Bring props. 100% of the time, if there is a prop that fits into the style of session you're interested in, it can elevate that session so incredibly much. This can look like doing a maternity session in a field, but hanging up a little clothesline and putting your baby clothes on it and using that as a background piece. This could be a ring if you're engaged and doing an engagement session. This could easily be blankets or chairs to add some visual interest and give you as a person something else to be doing. Always, always, always having props that fit into your scheme and what you are trying to get done is going to make your session look absolutely wonderful, and it's going to elevate it to that next level. Another note with that is dress for your location. If I'm on a beach, I'm not going to wear a color that's going to wash me out. So I'm not going to wear khakis or a light blue shirt because I'm going to be washed out by the blue ocean and the tan sand. What I might wear is a black shirt to really pop and stand out. But if I don't want to pop quite that much, I might back up a little bit and go, okay, what colors look really good in this environment but are still going to help me stand out? So whites are absolutely gorgeous on the beach. Dark blues are beautiful. Greens, depending on the shade, can be nice. And then on the flip side of that, say we're looking at doing photos in a wooded area, we need to consider two separate things. One, what is the season? And two, what clothing matches with that? So if I'm taking photos in January, I'm in South Carolina, so all the green stuff is dead in January. It's brown, with the exception of our ferns and conifers. So what am I going to be wearing? That way I don't blend into the brown in the back. I 100% of the time always, always, always recommend wearing dark, muted colors in that situation so that you don't stand out like a sore thumb wearing hot pink, but you also don't blend all the way in and it's like, oh, I'm camouflaged, I can't be seen now. So I would wear, personally, dark oranges, like burnt oranges, maroons, burgundies, dark greens, anything like that. And especially that dark green is going to help pull out that little bit of green that is still in the environment. Where I'm at, pretty much everybody wears dark wash jeans to their sessions. So that is personally what I would wear, but depending on your style, you might choose something completely different. On the flip side of that, if I'm taking photos in June in the same location, all that greenery is now going to be bright, gorgeous green. So that opens up a few more options for you. Yellows could be really pretty. Pinks or purples, depending on the flowers around, could be absolutely gorgeous. The biggest thing is making sure that you're choosing colors that look good with your background and complement your background. The biggest thing is making sure that you're choosing photos that look good with your background and they are complementing your background without washing you out, overshadowing you, or making you stick out like a sore thumb. Again, hot pink or neon purple in a forest is gonna make you stand out. If you're wanting to stand out and that's your favorite color and that's the style you're going for, 100% wear that to your shoot. If that's not what you're wanting, don't wear that to your shoot. In this episode of Behind the Lens, we were able to cover why your location matters to your photo shoot, different ways to choose a location, and red flags that you need to steer clear of a location. I also was able to give you an extra tip on how to prepare to be in that location and elevate your session to its absolute max. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Behind the Lens. This is week 2 of my 14-week series, where my goal is to answer questions that you may have about photography and give you the perspective from a photographer on why certain things are done the way they are. I am really thankful to have had you here, and I hope that through this series I am able to help you get ready to capture the moments that you cherish most. Please feel free to leave a like and comment if you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to have you subscribe. If you missed last week's video of Behind the Lens, I will put it on the screen so you can check back in and figure out how you need to go about booking a photography session with the photographer in your area. I am so incredibly happy to have had you this week. And if you are interested, check back next week where we will be covering a new topic about photography. Thank y'all.